Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of Two Smooth Operators. Your host, Michael Brooks and Robert Evers. Today's special guest is Brian Dickson from BD Loops, and we'll discuss things about loops and gate operator world. Stay tuned for another great episode.
Dang. Let me get
What's
Kaz up here.
up?
All right. What's going on, y'all?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
I have to say, Brian, I've never seen those hats at any of the shows. Are you holding back on us?
Oh yeah, I hold back big time. They're special release, limited quantity.
Hey,
Only bring a few
man,
per show.
with as expensive as those the good quality hats like what you're wearing are, trust me, you should have a dollar amount. You have to spend $20 million a year to get this hat.
Gotta ask the
Yeah.
secret password when you visit me at the show. What are you talking about?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah?
man.
You gotta bring the golden ticket that you find in the BD loop.
Oh, is that it? So is that what you do? Like on The Office or Willy Wonka? You go through and you put all the golden tickets and you put all of them in on one pallet.
Yeah, to those who know that they've received them, they know what it's about. They know what they get.
Robert, you ever got one of those?
No, I ain't got a hat yet.
No, one of the golden tickets to
Oh,
get it.
golden tickets.
Yeah.
No, I ain't never had a golden. Well, I can't say that because I win money every now and then, so I don't know. I
I'm
get a
not a
golden
big,
nugget.
I'm not a big gambler. Are you a gambler, Brian?
Hey, my win-loss statement. I was up $7 last year. I mean, hey, I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't
I'm
know
gonna quit my day job, but
I didn't know
Yeah.
you were a whale, man. I'm sorry about that. Robert, what do we got going on, man?
Oh, nothing much, man. I can see you're not in the normal studio. You're in the classroom today.
Oh, that was kind of almost like I knew you were going to say that. I switched it over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you did.
yeah, I'm in the classroom. That was by accident. I was trying to take myself off the screen. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm in actually at the Finch University. Brian's been here before. You haven't. Hopefully, get you here pretty soon. As
Yeah.
you can see right behind me, we're changing all of our displays. We just built a room up front that acts like it's a telecommunications room. So for the access control guys, they're going to be able to come in here and put some access control panels up, telephone entry
Hmm.
panels up, and then figure out how to route it from power to the devices that we're going to be powering up. So, and I think we're going to actually put a door on the front of it that will on that room in there. Put a door on the front of it, and we'll hook some door strikes and mag locks up to it too, so
Well,
we can
cool.
have some
you
stuff
mean they
too.
get hands-on?
Hands on? God forbid, hands on.
What are
Hmm.
you talking about?
Yeah, access control and gate operator guys, which I am both. We're not the brain buster maniacs, so hands on is the only way to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, this past week in North Carolina, we had some snow for a couple of days, and it's been in the teens in the temperature. So, this like Wednesday and Thursday, we didn't do nothing, and Friday or Friday, and I went on a couple gate calls where the snow melted on the ice. The ice was on the chain and caused the gate to throw the alarm, and all I did is went and turned the breaker on and off, and the gate took off working, and I tightened the chain, made them feel like I did something. So, but it worked,
Well,
and then.
I'm gonna jump over here in the chat room and watch to see if there's any comments
Mhm.
that come in. Does anybody know if they put silicone based lubricant on the chain? Does it actually help prevent ice from locking in? What are you using for chain
No,
lubricant, Robert?
I just use silicone or silicone spray like you do for garage doors, and that's basically all I use, or PB blaster silicone, and there's also some stuff that where at some of these places where I have to be biochemical compliant. It's called Houdini,
Huh.
and supposedly it's not bad for the environment.
Oh, interesting. You ever heard
Yeah.
of that such a thing, Brian?
I'm from California. Are you really asking me if I've heard of low VOC and non-compliant materials? Yeah, that's my backyard.
Yeah.
What do you have to do as far as the materials in your loop sealant? Do you have to be cautious about what you're making?
Yeah, there. So my product is sold in the gate world as well as Department of Transportation. And they got a lot of requirements on, what you should put in it, what you shouldn't put in it, what isocyanate you should put in it and shouldn't have in it. And ultimately, the product is called low VOC. And that's actually one of the things of my loop sealant that makes it stand out is it is low VOC and it's California compliant. And you don't put it on your morning toast in the morning, but it's not something that's gonna cause you cancer problems later down the road. So
Yeah.
something I got in my back pocket, and it's helped me get in more states having a product designed that way for Department of Transportation specifically.
Is that one of those things where if you can meet California requirements, you're pretty much good to go?
For the most part, yes.
So what else is going out there in North Carolina, Robert?
Oh man, just getting ready. Actually, kind of starting my year off with work. I'm got a few jobs and doing a lot of service calls on gate operators and getting some fence work in, and everything's kind of moving on pretty good. So it's been
Can't
good.
wait. Can't wait to see you at Fence Tech, but I'm gonna see you at the Fence Show before, or at the Fence Cruise before I see you at the
Yeah.
Fence Tech.
Oh yeah, I
Brian,
can't wait.
do you know your booth number at Fence Tech?
I do not off the top of my head, but I can pull it up.
No problem. If you guys aren't going to Fence Tech, Brian's going to have a booth there. Great expert to stop and talk to about loop stuff, and ask all these weird questions, which we're about to get to here in a minute. So, were you able to get very many service calls done this week, Robert?
Yeah, I did about four of them, so I got them done.
You
Got
got
them all going.
ice on the roads?
Well, I didn't do nothing when there was ice on the road. I said nah, I ain't doing driving because North Carolina is not set up for that too well. And I would wait till like 12, 1 o'clock to get out. Let the sun shine on the road a little bit to melt the ice. And went out and did a service call. And the next day I did the same thing. I didn't get out till like 12, 1 o'clock to go do them.
Brian, did you make it through the fires and everything okay? Were they close to where you were at?
Yeah, I'm south of LA, and so it didn't hit me. Just bad air quality, but it's raining here right now, which is going to help put those fires at ease. But there are a lot of people that got affected more north of me. I'm okay. BD Loops is okay. A lot of the other manufacturers based in California, I talked to them. They're doing okay. But yeah, it's something else.
That's sad situation.
Yeah, that is, it really is. I was watching, who knows if it's AI or not, but old Joe Rogan, actually, an old Joe Rogan podcast. It wasn't old, it was from last year. And he was saying he knew a firefighter. He said that it was just going to take a right set of conditions and it was going to wipe everything out all the way to the Pacific. So
Yeah.
hopefully, people we know and anybody that's been affected by it, hopefully you guys are in our thoughts. So, Brian, did you get out in the field at all? Did you go to any job sites or have anything pop off in your world?
I did a lot of tech support last week, a whole bunch of tech support questions all about, hey, it's wet, it's snowing, my gate's getting held open. How is the loop affecting that? There's a lot of that happening this week.
Gotcha. I bet you didn't have anybody build one of these in your class in any of your classes.
No,
You're like, no.
that's a little mini loop. I know what it is. I've built one. In fact, we make one as one of our testing devices for the products we sell called an easy detector checker.
I was
But it's
showing that
basically, yeah,
in the class to the class that I had going on. I was showing that to them.
good way to show the basics of the loop needs to be within these parameters. You know, Make one that has not enough turns, make one that has more turns. It's still within operational range and it will work. I mean, it's a great exercise to show them how it's done.
Robert, you ever made you a little test loop like this?
I would make them in my shop sometimes whenever I was experimenting.
I'm just curious, Brian. It seems like to me that even like if I do like 10 turns, granted, my inductance, I should just do it and see what the inductance actually is. But would you say it's fair to say that most loop detectors are looking for 20 to 2,000 microfarads?
Correct. Microhenries, yeah, they're looking somewhere within
Microhenries, I'm
that
sorry.
range. And if it's honestly, you just need to simply be within that operational range. Once this isn't within that range, the loop detector is looking for a delta or change from that point. So adding more turns doesn't necessarily make it more sensitive, and that's a misunderstood concept. The only exception to that rule is if the loop is within borderline operational range. Like if you are on that really, really low end, which kind of leads into troubleshooting and when loops are shorting to ground, basically the loop being an AC circuit, the bleeds current. And if it's bleeding current, it lowers the microhenry reading. And that's what a lot of people get the misconception of is the gate's opening by itself or locking open. They think they're getting a false detection, but it's actually a open fault error code because the loop escapes out of operational range. It's a really good exercise.
Gotcha. Well, I've done these with I think like 10 or 15 terms. Turns. I've got a couple of videos out there that show making these because I do it just a tad bit different. But yeah, your easy checker. The one thing that this doesn't do, okay, it'll simulate a loop.
Uh-huh.
If you want to test your loop detector and you got two loops, you could actually you couldn't permanently do it like this, but you could just swap the loops over and see if it works. But the one thing your easy loop detector does is actually has a button on it
Yep.
that will trigger the loop
So
detector.
the button causes an inductance change event. And that induction change event should register on the module as a detect. And if it registers as a detector module should do what it's hooked up to do. It also has a little LED light on it that when connected to the module, that should illuminate. If it doesn't, that's an indicator that the loop is not receiving power from the board, which could indicate a bad terminal point, a hairline crack in the board, a loose screw down, a loose wire nut, just something within that loop circuit of loop detector module and connection point between the two is not making it connect. It's something little, like little light, right? But that light is a really good troubleshooting tool when it comes to trying to find out where in the circuit's causing the problem.
Yeah, I gotta go get a big fat piece of steel and put it down the middle of that in order to get
Hey,
it to
you know,
work.
if you wiggle the wires around, that actually causes a false detection.
Yeah, yep. That's
I'm gonna try to prove you wrong on that. So let me do
mm-mm.
that and see. Oh, I'm gonna be wrong, Robert.
You gonna if you wiggle them wires, that gate will open.
I'll wiggle all
Guarantee you.
the yellow wires. Well, you don't know anything about any weird loop situations or anything. I'm the one that always gets all the weird loop requests. Well, do you get any weird loop requests?
Yeah, I get it. I got one that they wanted the exit loop on both sides of the
Mm.
gate.
I had that
Hmm.
before.
They just want to have vehicle access and um and I have it on a timer too. Open
Mm.
up 6:30 in the morning to closes at 7:30 a.m. and then opens up at 6:30 p.m. Closes at 7:30 p.m. and then they can when the gate shut either side of the gate they drive on the loop it'll open for them. So we got
Yeah,
two
yeah,
exit
yeah.
loops.
That's a very common question I get asked. People say, "Hey, my customer wants it to only operate during business hours, Monday through Friday, 6 to 4, or something like that."
Hmm.
And a lot of people do it wrong. They try
Yeah.
to just turn the loop off or put the timer in the wrong place.
Hmm.
It's quite a few
Yeah.
tech support calls I get on that.
Hmm. Yeah. It's kind of a little um difficult to figure out, but once you do it one time or a couple times, you can figure out how to make that uh exit loop into a safety loop with the
Yeah,
timer
you
Now,
basically need to
on it.
have like a dual relay output so that
Yeah.
when it's on the on hours, so business hours, it acts as an exit loop, but then during the off hours, you have it operate as an interrupt, so you don't lose that reversing functionality.
Yes.
of preventing closure on the off hours.
Hmm.
I'd like to draw up that circuitry just to take a look at it, make sure I got my head right. But I never had my head right until today because never thought about making that exit on the unsecure side, on the
Hmm.
outside of the gate, into a safety during those off hours. Every
Hmm.
time that I've got that request to make an exit on the outside, it's always been, well, we don't care what happens afterwards because we're all gone. But
Yeah.
that's not acceptable because every time that somebody
Hmm.
says we're all gone, you got somebody like me that's still at the office at 9 p.m. and then all of a sudden the back of my car is stuck over the gate waiting for people to clear the highway, and then bam, the gate gets me.
Yep. Loops are there to
What
prevent closure. They're used a lot as methods of free exit, but they are there to prevent closure on vehicles. Photo eyes are not enough. You need the loops there to do that too.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
one of the weird things that I commonly get, it's not weird to me after you do it once, but using the same loop has a reverse for the vehicle gate, but a close for the barrier arm. So,
Hmm. I had a question about that this week too. Customer was installing a high security operator with a barrier arm in front, and his intent was originally just to have the loop serve as a close for the barrier arm. And I said,
mhm.
hey, use the auxiliary output to also wire up to your swing gate as well to act as a reverse so that it prevents closure should someone try to race through that system too.
Hmm.
And he wasn't even aware that it existed. And the HY5B detector modules have their limitations of what outputs could be used, but they got it done.
That's good.
So real quickly, I missed a couple of steps in there. So the HY5B, what loop detector is that?
HY5B is high security's detector module that can plug
Okay.
directly into their board. It's the one after their HY5A.
So it's a module
Yeah.
that plugs into it, that's just compatible with the high security stuff.
Yeah, kind of like the
Okay.
LiftMaster Loop DETLM. It's a proprietary detector module that can only fit their systems.
Gotcha.
And they get special features that kind of mesh in with their operator as a result of that.
But you're saying in conjunction with that and some inputs or outputs on the board, you don't need one loop detector with two relays, one that syncs a close and then one.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's
Yeah,
good to know.
detector modules have a lot of bells and whistles, and if you need to be able to have an auxiliary output, you're going to have to externally harness wire in a different brand of detector module to accomplish that. Even for what Evers was talking about, where you got to gain access to the contacts to make that loop act as an interrupt loop and during off hours and an exit loop during on hour or business hours, you need to gain access to the contacts to do so. So you have to externally harness wire it in to accomplish that. You can't just plug in a LiftMaster loop to TLM because you don't gain access to the contacts.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. There on one of the older loops, North Star actually makes it to where you can have an external relay,
Hmm.
where you can still plug it into that, and it doesn't
Correct.
control through internal. It just uses basically the power. But that's very interesting. But surprisingly enough, that exit loop on the outside is common enough to where I've heard it more than once. What other weird loop things are you getting into, Robert?
Well, the other one basically is put a switch on it, and we had a hunting club that wanted to turn it to the outside safety loop into entrance loop where the gate would open. And so at 4 o'clock in the morning, or that they'll leave that night, flip the switch, it'll turn from the safety to the exit loop. So I've done that before. So, and
Yeah.
they'll 4 o'clock in the morning, the hunters will come out there and run over the loop, and the gate will open. And then whenever the hunting season's over with, they just flip the switch.
Then it
So,
turns it from an
So
exit function, which opens it.
yeah.
Instead, it makes it interrupt to prevent closure. That's
Hmm.
the right way to do it. Don't
Yes.
just wire it in so it turns the loop entirely off because
Yeah.
then you lose that reversing function.
And I'll give my dad the credit for that. So
Those
He,
poor little animals, man.
yeah,
Why,
the
man?
baby boomers, man.
Those poor animals, man. Well, nobody needs to kill Bambi. Come on,
But
man.
this is this is still out there. It's a pheasant hunting
Oh,
and
birds.
quail
I don't care
hunting.
about birds, man. Birds.
Birds are
Not an
good.
Autobahn guy, huh?
Yeah, yeah, man. Kill all them birds, man. Now, I think that's kind of the weirdest ones that I get. Hey, Brian, I now this is actually a great question for me. Forget everybody in the audience. Is it true? Because I had thought that I had read this one time that they make loop detectors that are sensitive enough that it can detect what kind of vehicle it is.
Yes,
So,
that
so
does
for,
exist.
okay, so if it's a 2002 Mercedes,
Hmm.
they from the factory, the loop detector manufacturer says, I'm
Hmm.
going to run 10 different ones of these over, builds an
Hmm.
algorithm on that, and then can say this was between a 1999 and 2003 Chevy pickup truck.
Yeah, you don't find it used much in the access control world, so gates don't really use this. But in Department of Transportation, they want to know on a given freeway how many large trucks, how many passenger cars, how many motorcycles are going through that freeway or that intersection or that area. And so how it works is it's basically a vehicle identification system that when the vehicle drives over it, it gives you a unique signature in the wavelength and the percentage change. And that unique signature can be identified to the specific class of vehicle. In traffic, you're able to do that because you dictate where in the lane they drive.
Okay.
Whereas on in the gate world, you got a wider lane and they can drive anywhere over that loop, and depending on where they drive you get a different signature, and that different
Okay.
signature
That's
makes it a
cool.
little harder to identify, but it technically could be done
Hmm.
if you get people to drive through a specific section of the gate for logging, like an LPR, like license plate recognition style system. You know, you could use that vehicle identification system to say, hey, this is what type of vehicle, this is the class of it, went through said system, which is also good for border control too. So, like if you're
Awesome.
going from US to Mexico, they want that kind of analytic data too.
Hmm.
And
Now I
it's
had a customer that just bought a camera for the campground where the car drives through and it takes pictures of the license plate,
Yeah.
and that's what it focuses on it and keeps that data, and they know who's coming in and out through the license plate, and they'll be able to open the gate with the camera and they'll
Hmm.
recognize the
Hmm.
license plate.
Yeah, loops are used a lot in that type of system in the parking world. A loop is a vehicle detection device. And yes, in the gate world, it's used as automatic open and preventative closure, but it can be used as an activation function too to trigger the camera to take that picture to register the license plate.
okay. Yeah.
Anything you want something to happen when a vehicle drives over it, the loop gives you access to that relay to accomplish it.
Okay. Um, am I exaggerating though by saying that it can detect, like, literally not just that it's a consumer half-ton pickup truck?
Yes, you
Oh,
have to get the data, and some of the
okay.
manufacturers have that data already.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, you can get that specific of it is this vehicle, Mercedes
Mhm.
Okay.
2000 or
Gotcha.
Isuzu truck or pickup, Toyota pickup truck. Like, yeah, you can get that specific.
And it's probably fair to say that we're not going down to our local distributor and spending $99 on a loop detector to tell that, correct?
No, they're different ranges. I mean, there's a detector module out there made by EDI. It's called an Oracle, and it's got 20 levels of sensitivity. It's a big boy. It's about the size of four detector modules. It has a built-in
Man,
oscilloscope on it. It's got way more features than anything the access control world needs. But hey, there's been some systems where I've pulled that one out and said, you might want to get this one on the system for that built-in oscilloscope for that wide range of sensitivity adjustment. And that was a weird one. That was actually for a bird bath, which was airplane detection. So kind of think like car wash,
Okay.
where you
Yeah.
drive up and the car wash system washes your car, but now make it for planes. So you had to be able to detect
Awesome.
a small Cessna all the way up to, a large 747 going through that same system in that loop. Still needs to be able to detect it.
Oh,
So we
Mm,
cool.
got we got we got the big guns out and we pulled out the Oracle, and man, that thing worked really good after we got that thing on there.
man, that's awesome.
We're gonna have
Here,
to
I got
put
I
it in
got
the
another
budget.
weird loop request actually. Uh,
What's good?
yeah, so I had a customer say, customer has gate was being installed for. They have a fountain, and what they want the loop to do is that when they drive over the loop, it turns off the fountain. It was like a splash pad, so they could park their vehicle where the splash pad was, get out, go about their day. Then when they leave, they drive over that loop again. Splash pad comes back on again. It,
Wow.
Okay.
it's you can do some. Got the money, right? You can do
Yeah.
whatever you want with your
Yeah.
with
I
your
got a
system.
customer with a splash pad.
Yeah, so you can have the loop activate the
I
system
ain't
to
gonna
turn it
say
on or
nothing
off.
to him though.
Robert, Robert, what's a splash pad, man? I don't know.
It's like what I call a splash pad is like a little water park for kids.
Yeah,
They got water spouts, and I put the fence around it for them,
just click
and
that image.
yeah, and
All
I do their gates too for their um vacation rental place. So,
All right, so I'll tell you what I thought y'all were talking about because
oh
I've
god,
always been interested in this. Um, is that you know how EMX makes like a 4x4 pad that
Hmm.
goes mounts on the wall,
Yep,
and
or the
it,
floor.
or oh, it will mount on the floor.
Yeah,
That's
it's called a surface mount style loop, and it's
okay.
mounted on the ground, and vehicles drive over it, and it works as a loop. It's basically a loop that you
Okay.
put on the floor. And the only disadvantage is it's on the floor because now vehicles are driving over it, it gets tore up.
Okay.
But for applications that you can't cut into the roadway,
Yeah.
like a post tension slab in a parking structure,
Okay.
that's where you utilize that type of thing.
Oh, I gotcha. Well,
Mhm.
not trying to take any business away from you. I just thought that that's what the application was actually for, like car washes, where
Mhm.
you can mount it on the wall. And I thought that that's was the only design for it was on the wall. So when y'all said splash pad, I said in the car wash, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm over here going, yeah, I know what a splash pad is. I was like, hold on, let me make sure I got this straight. What other weird stuff do you get, Robert, out there? Do you guys have any problems with the ice and all that stuff freezing over? And
yeah. I mean, it was. I only got one call for that, and it was pretty easy fix. Just reset the breaker. It was a Door King 9150. It was chirping. It was going chirp, chirp, chirp when I pulled up, and I knew
yeah,
that it was extraction. So, um, I went and turned it on, turned it off, tightened, lubricated the chain, and went back to work. Then I just got my truck and left. But I drove 35 miles to that gate operator.
Mm.
that's why I love living in Texas, which it needs to happen again, man. It's because
Yeah.
everything is in the backyard. You got 7.6 million people right in your backyard, and in Nevada, it's not as many people.
Mhm.
There's something that a lot of people don't know is that 80% of the United States population lives from Dallas east, and the
Yeah.
other 20% live over there. And I would imagine that 19% of that's in California.
Mm.
Not
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, I didn't know if you had any weird loop requests go happen in North Carolina, Robert, because it was cold. But I don't know if you've actually ever seen this before. So North Star sent the Finch University this. Let's
That's
get the
cool.
label up and down. So it may look like a loop rack to some people, but what this is actually three loops and the loop rack built in. So if you're going to put in a set of swingers with the shadow, you would definitely be ahead of the game as opposed to three
Hmm.
independent loops. And
Yeah.
it's probably a break even if you were going to do this for a reverse and an exit. But I thought this was pretty interesting because I still try to have to convince manufacturers that like when I'm telling people about the 1 in a million and you're going, well, that the manufacturer goes, well, that's a 1 in a million. The distributor goes, well, that's 1 in a million, or the rep goes, hey, that's 1 in a million. Well, guess what? My service department is 1 in a million. That's what we deal with. So this having this on your truck gets rid of the loop rack and 3 loop detectors. And if you wanted to rewire your loops into this, it does. So I thought that this was pretty neat, Robert. That I didn't know
Yeah.
if you had seen that before. So we're going to put this
Mm.
on a set of gates or a gate operator here in the Finch University and put that on there. So I thought that that was kind of neat.
It's
So
it's a
Okay.
really cool detector module. It's basically a 3 channel, so it's got 3 slots that you can plug in 3 different loops to, and you can wire it up to your operator to perform those 3 functions. I mean, you could do it as a outside interrupt, inside interrupt, exit loop, each on their own channel, each on their own relay output.
yeah.
So it doesn't have to be reverse, shadow, exit. You could have each one on its own, thus reducing its overall detectable area, making each loop perform better.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
it's just
Okay.
they're three different channels. You can plug 3 different loops into that, and you'll have 3 outputs.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool. So now that you bring that up, hey Mark, what's going on? We're going to be over at JC Gurry here, and well, at least 2 of us are. Robert, you ain't going to be there because
Nope.
you're a geek. So you know, hey man, you do your
I'm
own
on the
thing.
All
east.
the cool kids
Yeah, all the
go to
cool
JC
kids.
Gurry
For,
class.
for you guys that don't know JC Gurry, they were kind enough to host us for the how to install a gate operator that we're going to be doing here in February. It's almost like he knew we were about to start talking about him. But you can go to thefinchuniversity.com and actually find out more about that to register about it. But if you're in Southern California, is it fair to say, Brian, if you're in Southern California, this will be one of the first time, or maybe one of the first times that you've actually gone to a property with a class of people that are looking to learn about loops and actually physically installed 2 loops?
As a class, yes. This is it. Like outside of apprenticeship or private classes or how to's, like this is very unique, hands on, good education content. I mean, most classes are you're at a table, you got a PowerPoint in front of you, and there's a place and time for that.
Yeah,
But people learn hands on better. It applies to the actual information.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna go out there at JC Gurry. They're installing a gate. You're going to set the limits. You're going to install the loops. You're going to put all the accessories on it. We're gonna, in a real world application, teach you what to do right, and that's you're gonna take away a lot from it. All those students, those lucky students who are going.
well, this might be, we got about 8 or 9 tickets left. This might be one of the cool things too, because what we're going to do is we're going to do your loop and guys like me who hand wrap. I know Robert doesn't do BD, he doesn't do hand wrap loops. He does all BD loops, everything. It
Hmm.
makes me mad, especially because my teammate. You're supposed to back me up, man, Robert.
No. Let's see. I'm on offense. You're on defense.
All right, see, that's the loyalty that we've built together. So, anyways, I still hand wrap loops, and mainly it's because my salespeople are stupid. So I have to be a little bit more flexible, which you taught me at the Finch University that you do have flexibility in your loops, and I
We
never
do.
knew that. After 19 years of doing it, now in the 20th, 21st year, whatever the case may be. So what we're going to do is we're going to do hand wrap and backer rod. We're not going to seal it because seal it will take about the same time. Wouldn't you say, Brian, whether it's yours or somebody else's sealant, you still got to walk around the loop with a gun and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So when we do that, we're going to start a timer and we're going to put a camera on both sides and see who's faster. I know you're going to be faster. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and admit defeat right now, but
Oh, come
but
on.
but we're going to do that, and then we're going to rip that hand wrap loop up, and then we're going to put both BD loops in there. That way,
Yeah.
JC Degree doesn't call back to Finch
Yeah.
University and says, "Hey, I got problems with my loops. Get out here now."
Well,
Yeah,
what you can do
BD Loops is
is
gonna don't go ahead, Robert.
what you can do is nick that wire too and show them loop failure.
Have we done that before, Brian? I know you've got some YouTube videos. By the way, what's your YouTube channel,
BD
Brian?
Loops.
BD
BD
Loops.
Loops. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You actually were smart. You didn't do it. BD Loops 1943,
No.
awesome or something like that.
He's got
No.
bdloops.com and he's
Uh-huh.
got some cool stuff on here.
Have we announced the thing that we were talking about
Yeah,
before?
it's out. It's out. The
All right,
BD
and what do
Loops
you,
Loopulator. It's out there.
so for you guys that so is it an app or is it just a website that's mobile friendly?
It's website, mobile friendly, desktop friendly. It's basically what it is it's a loop layout calculator. You input the type of system you're working with, be it a slide gate, swing gate, overhead door,
Yeah.
answer a few questions of, is it socket or direct burial? Are you, what's the lane width? And it will spit you out a diagram of placement of showing
Yeah.
you exactly
This
where
is
loops
cool.
should go, what size they should be. It's going to tell you BD's part numbers. Say, hey, you need an SC2450 for this application, which makes it easier dealing with the distributors that you can tell them, I need this for the application. But it's of anyone of any skill level can generate a diagram of placement of where it's supposed to go.
Well, you're dealing with the lowest skill level over here, that's for sure. But I've always said go with the BDHS 350, which is what you were recommending. I've always said that model number is my favorite. So, anyways, I'm just joking around, of course. But we'll hand wrap a loop and then we'll put yours in there,
Yeah.
which is in essence for a three-turn loop, it's a 3-to-1 advantage. You're gonna be that much faster than I am. But so we'll do that, and it's going to be a very unique setup for that. Hey,
Hmm.
Brian. Every time that we talk to you, we always talk about loops. You're always professional, all that stuff. What stuff are you actually into? Like, what are your hobbies? I mean, do you have a hobby, or is it literally like you're back there soldering loops together right now as soon as you get off the phone?
No, I don't go and solder loops off hours unless I have to. But
So you
I
do
do I do actually. But uh, I'm actually, I like video games. I like playing board games. I got actually brew beer as well. I'm into
Cool.
baseball. I know football's going on right now as we speak. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, my team's out, but I'm into
Hmm.
baseball. Baseball's my big thing. Southern California, I follow both the Angels and the Dodgers. But
Awesome.
yeah, going on to I actually part of a brew club. I brew
Awesome.
beer,
Yeah. My
cider,
brother does
mead.
that in Virginia.
Yeah, it's honestly not that hard, and the process is very interesting. Just how you do it.
Hmm.
And we meet annually. I'm part of the California Homebrewers Association, and we brew beer. And every year we go to their annual festival
Yeah.
in down in Temecula at Vale Lake, and it's a pretty cool little venue where all the clubs get together for their beer that they've been brewing,
Yeah.
for that year, and my club will have our stuff out
Well, it's a good excuse to drink beer because that's what I tell my brother.
there.
They get together once a month, and his buddies bring
Hmm.
their all the brew from the house. And I'll tell you what, they made that good, some good stuff. They made a citrus beer that was
Mm.
pretty good, and
Yeah, a lot of
like
people like to add fruit to beer.
the dark ale, whatever you call it, and
Stouts,
the,
yeah, ports.
also made light beer, which that's what I would drink is light beer. And I
Hmm.
was like, man, this is pretty good. I said, I'll be
Well,
drunk every weekend too, if I was a part of a brew club.
Hey, sometimes you make something great. Sometimes you make brown water. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah, I imagine so.
you never know, right?
It's
Yeah,
it's kind of like the way I look at it with those homebrew beers. It's like BD loops. Like, why install anything other than a preformed BD loop? Like Coors Light has already figured it out. So why
no.
would you buy anything other than Coors Light? I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm just letting you know, man. So you're the Coors Light of the loop,
Hey,
Brian.
you need to get a can that looks like the tube, you know, BD
Mm-hmm.
Loop beer.
Mm-hmm.
Boom,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
BD
that's
beer.
exactly what you need to do. Let's get
There
you
you
some
go.
BD Lou beer, and then
Oh
at the
boy.
end, Yeah, after at the end of when you're done drinking it, you have a test loop, right? It comes just like this. It's only going to be $25 a can, but that's okay.
Hey,
Yeah,
copper's expensive, and it adds
yeah,
unique flavor.
yeah. That'd
Well,
be fun.
Brian, you Robert, you into board games?
Yeah, we play board games over the holidays.
Yeah.
Monopoly, and there was some new game my mom had that you threw numbers down. I can't even explain it, but it was
That
fun.
game's called Catan.
There you
That's where
go. You
that.
got it.
Yeah,
Yep. He's
I'm
a
I'm I'm
gamer.
big in I'm big into the board game scene too.
Yeah.
Modern board games have really taken off. So I got about 700 plus games in my
Wow.
collection. It's there's a lot of them, a lot of special rules, a lot of modern things. It's nice because you can get together with friends and
Yeah.
drink beer and play board
Hmm.
games. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good evening of just
It
horsing around,
kind of
messing.
reminds me of dominoes a little bit.
Well, it's apparently mountain bike. I'm assuming doesn't know who Brian is. All right, he's got something else to say too. So there we go. Let's see. Hey, Brian, are
Hey, how you doing?
those your buddies, Brian?
MTB Ohana. Well, Ohana
MTB.
would make me think they are Hawaii.
Oh, yeah. Well, it could be somebody just dropping in, knowing that I'll put all the
Yeah.
comments up there, right? Well, as y'all were talking about board games. I'm not a big. I mean, I enjoy playing Monopoly or something like that. I'm more of a card game guy. I'll play Uno. Uno is my favorite.
Yeah.
So, just to FYI, Mom, if you're listening, your other son, Pat, he cheats at Uno, just so you know. He's not that great at Uno. My brother, we're sitting there in Florida. My brother and sister in law were kind enough to invite me on vacation. So we're sitting, me, my mom, my brother were sitting there playing Uno. And then all of a sudden, I see one of these. Right? I'm like, hold on, there's no deck of cards up under here. And he's pulling out wild card fours or wild fours to,
Draw
uh,
fours.
to,
Yeah.
to yeah, what do they call draw four?
Draw four. Yeah.
Draw four. So you have a wild card and then you have a draw
Hmm.
four. Yeah. So, anyways, my brother cheats at Uno. So I like Uno. But here's what we need to do: we need to make the gate operator access control board game, right? So if you put on one turn in a 4x4 loop, right, you go back to jail, right? Or if
Yeah.
you put a gate operator in sideways, that's a warranty call, and then you got to go back. You got to go back
Yeah.
10 spaces.
Well,
So
that can be done.
if that's something y'all are interested in taking to the market, I think we could all quit our day jobs.
I
That'd
wouldn't.
be
I
nice.
wouldn't quit your day job. There's not a whole lot of money in the board game, board game world. Too
No.
niche.
Yeah, I would imagine it's almost like children's books or something. You got
Hmm.
like 5 million people just trying to write children's books or whatever. Well, Brian, look, man, Robert, you got any more loop stuff or anything like that you need to talk about?
I'm done with the loop stuff, and
Well,
I'm done.
I have to tell you that I had a class over the last 3 days of Gotcha Security out in Atlanta. I really appreciate those guys trusting me to teach their team. If you guys ever want to do any private classes, we do private classes on the weekend. Here's my phone number. Robert as well too. If you're on the East Coast, right? And if you need somebody with a little bit more common sense than I have, more practical sense, then Robert's the guy to go to. Here's his phone number. But
Yeah.
Brian has been kind enough to volunteer and come help teach you guys in February with at the Finch University at hosted by J.C. Gurry. Here's the address: February 12th through the 14th. We're going to be out at J.C. Gurry doing something that is not done, which is cutting loops, installing hand wrap loops, installing preform loops, seeing what's faster, and then putting the back rod and sealing in or sealant and seeing which one's faster and actually doing
And how to
the
do it
install,
right.
how to do it right.
Yep.
And not just right now, like is how I do it. Just wrap it and go. So
Yeah.
we definitely appreciate it, Brian. All right, Robert, you always hit us with a good one on the outro or on the intros. Do you have one on the outros?
Sure do.
All right,
Here we
let's hear
go.
it. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for watching another great episode of Two Smooth Operators.
It's loop
Your
time.
host, Michael Brooks and Robert Evers, wants to thank Mr. BD Loops himself,
Yes, sir.
Brian Dickson, for coming on the podcast and discussing the product line BD Loops. Thank you, Brian. And stay tuned for another episode next Sunday, 5:30 Pacific time.